Technique 16. Break it down.
Let me tell you, my family, we got so much bad luck. If we didn't have bad luck, we'd have no luck at all. Our family, we have a predisposition to diarrhea. It runs in our genes.
Break it down is a critically important teaching tool, but it can be challenging to use because it's primarily a reactive strategy. You use it in response to an error at the moment the incorrect answer happens. Now, most teachers recognize that when a student error occurs, simply repeating the original question is unlikely to be especially helpful, unless you have reason to believe that the student failed to hear you the first time. But what to do instead? Once you notice that an error has occurred, you have to immediately break down the original question into its component parts. After you've recognized the error, you've got to go back and ask a question or present information that bridges the part of the material that you think was most likely to have caused the error. Then you're going to build the student's knowledge back up from a point of partial understanding. You don't need to go all the way back to the beginning, just back to the point of stumble. When you successfully break it down, you're isolating the problem part within the larger error and helping the student use previous knowledge to arrive at a successful solution without you having to provide it. Consider a simple example. A student in my class was reading aloud and unable to decode the word nature. He hesitatingly sounded out nah, nah, before falling silent. I responded by writing the word on the board and saying, "This is the word you are trying to read." The student waited a minute, so I drew a horizontal line, to make it a long vowel sound, above the letter A. I could see him pausing again to see if he recognized the meaning, and he didn't. So I proceeded to break it down one step further, saying, long A, as I pointed to the horizontal line. And it worked. It was effective. With the new information on the problem spot, the vowel sound, my student was able to combine the new knowledge with the old knowledge and properly pronounce the word. It would have been easier for me to just say the word nature. The word you're trying to read is nature. But I want to isolate the problem and figure out why he's unable to read the word. If I would have just given him the word, it would have required little or no cognitive work on his part and would have emphasized his failure rather than the possible success later on. I only needed to return a few steps back to his previous base knowledge. This way, I was able to direct him to the solution instead of holding him and walking hand in hand. You never really know exactly how big the gap is between the student's level of knowledge and the knowledge necessary for mastery. This is why it's so important to give as many opportunities as possible for students to attempt cognitive work. As such, you want to provide the smallest clues possible. This will cause your students to apply what they already know to the greatest degree possible. Of course, there are some drawbacks to this technique. Breaking things down to the least degree possible takes time. It's not able to be done as quickly as we'd like. However, you must try to keep pace and manage time in your classroom. One of the best ways to ensure success with Break It Down is to prepare for it as part of the lesson planning process. You have to identify potential trouble spots and draft your question and answers beforehand. It can't be done on the fly. Okay, so there are probably a limitless number of ways to break down difficult information and tasks, but I've found that there are 6 that work best. Here they are. Providing an example is as easy as it sounds. You might say, Brian is a noun. You might cue it by breaking it down further. Brian is a proper noun. And by breaking it down even further, you could observe Brian is a proper noun that is spelled B-R-Y-A-N. Providing context gives students an idea of how this question or problem associates with the wider world. For example, if you're teaching your students chess, you might want to refer to the pawns as soldiers in the war. Providing a rule gives students an easy access point to start tackling the problem from. For example, you might still remember the math rule PEMDAS. parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. It's that simple. Sometimes all students need is a push in the right direction. They don't need a step-by-step tutorial, just the first or second step to get the ball rolling. Roll the students' answers right back into their ears. Sometimes it's sufficient to repeat a student's answer back to him or her. Many of us instantly recognize our errors when they're played back for us, as if on tape. Eliminate false choices just means that you're narrowing the scope of possible answers a student has to choose from. For example, if you're struggling to recognize the meaning of the word owner, you might eliminate the following. You might ask them, can I own? Can you own? No, so therefore it's not a verb. The most important concept to remember about break it down is that the technique is intended to build it back up.
As always, if you liked the video, you can find this one and many others on my Facebook page, Kaizen Teaching. Have a great day.